Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 37 of the Pet Behavior Chat. And today is a really special episode. Number one is because there are three of us here. So I've got both Ilse and Nora with me. It's the first time we've done this with three people on the podcast. So hopefully everything's going to go smoothly. But the other reason that it's such a special episode is because we're going to talk about how we became a fear-free certified veterinary practice, which if you follow our social media channels, you know that this has happened in the last couple of weeks, although it's a process that has been ongoing for much longer. But we finally got our fear-free certified veterinary practice accreditation literally just last week. So we thought we'd talk a little bit about the process of that, but maybe even go back a little bit earlier than that. And I guess I'll start us off with how we what is fear-free and how we first sort of became acquainted with fear-free. So fear-free is, I guess, a movement, an organization that was set up in 2015, 2016 by Dr. Marty Becker in the US. And the whole ethos behind fear-free is giving pets a better experience at the veterinary clinic. Certainly that's how it started. It's expanded massively since then. It's also now including other species, not just companion animals, so not just sort of the small animal veterinary practice. But that's really where it started. And I guess it was on the back of quite a bit of research that came out that, 78.5% of dogs coming into a veterinary clinic show some signs of fear. So if you think about that practically, that's 8 out of 10 dogs coming into the veterinary practice, which is huge. And, I think it is really something that we need to be very mindful of, not just from what actually is their experience and their emotional experience, but what impact does that also have on our clinical outcome? I think that's something that's often forgotten about. So that's a little bit about fear-free. And then I guess I was introduced to fear-free in 2018. So we'd been an ISFM gold standard cat-friendly clinic since 2014. So we'd been doing a lot of this kind of, we've been following this approach for cats a lot, but we hadn't really got anything to help us implement this for dogs. And that's where sort of fear-free came in. And like I said, I became acquainted with it in 2018. And I thought that was something that I would like to look into. So at that time, and in fact, until recently, only practices in the US and Canada were able to become certified practices. But what we could do is become fear-free certified individuals. And that's quite different. So the individual certification process is a lot different to actually a practice certification process. And then I guess late last year, I got word that fear-free was starting to certify practices outside of the US. And I got in touch with them to say that we would like to be one of those practices. And they only really were looking at the UK and Australia initially, I think because of the language largely. But when I sort of explained that, here in the UAE, really everything happens in the English language as well, we got the green lights to go ahead. And obviously, Ilse and Nora are going to chat us a little bit through about what that process looked like. But before we do that, though, do you both want to perhaps chat a little bit about how you individually got acquainted with fear-free? Because I guess Nora's journey was a little bit similar to mine, but Ilse, yours was quite different. So Ilse, do you want to maybe start us off how you got acquainted with fear-free?
Yeah, so it was after I completed my advanced diploma at COPE and started getting a little bit more involved in the, emotional side of things when it came to training. And as one does, you always have a look at things that you feel very strongly about. And fear-free and force-free, at that time, force-free was quite a big deal in the positive reinforcement training world. And I had a look at, I want to know more. And I came across fear-free on some Facebook group or I can't remember exactly how. And I decided to enroll in the companion animal training certification. So that is slightly different to the veterinary side. So that is specifically how to help vets, how to do cooperative care, how to focus on husbandry. So that's also something that from a more training point of view, that's obviously very important for puppies and, for any patient. So I really just dove in head first, and I completed my certification with Fear Free as the pandemic was happening at the start of that, which I guess was a little bit frustrating because I couldn't really do it in practice at that time. But I implemented all of that stuff with my own dogs at the time, and I haven't looked back since. And then just from there, keep doing the continuous professional development through them. As you guys know, they've got amazing webinars and additional courses. So just, as soon as something new comes out, it's like, oh, I really want to, focus on pilling dogs or, nail clipping and all of those kind of more specific things. And yeah, it just hasn't stopped.
And funnily enough, Fear Free is how we found you, I think, when we were looking when we were looking for a trainer. I think, Nora, you went onto the Fear Free website and you had a look for, trainers that had done that sort of the Fear Free qualification. And that's how we found you, which is very serendipitous and quite funny that we're all now on this sort of journey together.
Yeah, it is funny how we found each other through Fear Free. I remember when your behavior consults were really taking off, and I remember the day perfectly walking into the office. You're like, we need a trainer. But it was like, how are we going to find this person who gets it like we do? How, does this person exist? Do we need to find somebody and, help them along the journey? And I remember using the Fear Free. There's a job database, and then there's like a CV database, and looking, and then seeing this little flag in South Africa that there was a Fear Free trainer there, and then finding her. And then I think I had to use other tools like Facebook and that to connect. and that's actually how it happened. And then just a few months later, Ilse was here with us.
So funny. And Nora, how about your journey into Fear Free? How did that kind of all come about for you?
Through you. I remember, I think it was 2018, you mentioned it at a team meeting. We used to have these really nice, I think, weekly team meetings here, and when the team was a lot smaller. And I can remember at the very end, you said, hey guys, I've come across something called Fear Free. It's about, checking in with the emotional welfare of all patients. And I think it's going to be big, and I think we need to do it, and it's going to make things better for everybody. What do you think? And I think most of the team are like, yeah, sounds good. For me personally, as a bit of a cat-friendly, diehard fan, I was a little bit like, what is this? Like, cat-friendly is the best thing. That kind of covers everything. But of course it doesn't. It leaves this, gap for the dogs. And as somebody who's very cat leaning in my practice, I definitely needed something that was going to help me, because I'm a veterinary nurse. I have to be able to treat cats and dogs. And whereas I understand cats' needs a lot better, Fear Free immediately opened up this way of understanding dogs and, learning their language and giving them what they need. And it was just so great to actually have something practical like that to apply in the same way that I had been with Cat Friendly. And I think it was 2019, we started really layering the different, teachings from Fear Free as a team. So we all became individually certified, and then we kind of came together and made sure that there were some standards within the clinic. And that's the really cool thing, is it's been 5 years of just getting better and better. And every day, every week, there's something new that we've learned. We're constantly teaching each other. So yeah, I think it's been a 5-year journey, and it's been a really, really cool one.
Amazing. Yeah. And I guess it's important to say that Fear Free obviously is not just dog centric. It does cover all species. And I think they have some great courses also for birds and for horses, I believe now. So they're definitely expanding also in terms of the species that they're kind of including in all of this. But to be fair, I think, all species need to be included, whether that's wildlife or farm animals or production, everybody really needs to kind of be afforded the same level of dignity and the same approach. So let's chat a little bit about the kind of the certification process, the fear-free practice certification process. And, you know, I think we could talk for hours about fear-free, and I'm sure there's going to be more podcast episodes on some of the specifics. But Nora, do you want to chat us through? So one of the things that we kind of started with, one of the requirements of becoming a certified practice was actually having a whole number of SOPs, so standard operating procedures in place. Do you want to chat us through a little bit about how, well, essentially you and Ilse, because all I did was kind of read through them, but you guys created them, how you guys went about creating those?
Well, Fear-Free does have a really amazing support team that help with the certification process. They give you really good details as to what they need, but they don't write it out for you. You know, we have to do that. And I think every clinic has an individual approach for their own SOPs, what's going to work. In the past, we have lots of SOPs within the clinic, but they're more from a technical and clinical side. You know, this is technically how you place a catheter. We have all of those. What they were looking for is SOPs for how we do literally everything in the clinic from a fear-free perspective. So we had to go back to foundations, absolutely everything we do, make SOPs for them that still include the technical points, which are very important, but have fear-free in every single step of the way. So for example, I'll use placing a catheter. You know, our original SOP talks about how we clean the area, how we prep, you know, what size catheter we use, that we flush it after, those sort of things. Now we're looking at assessing the animal's fear and anxiety when they come into the room. We're looking at, you know, the temperature of the cleaning materials that we're using on their skin so that that will be as gentle as possible. You know, look at how many people potentially you need to distract or cuddle or feed the animal when we're doing it. So there's all of these little details, and it actually made it quite like a beautiful way of looking at something as technical as placing a catheter, is thinking like, what does that animal feel during that process, and how can we make it as stress-free as possible? So that's sort of where the SOPs were about, but there was such a large number of them. We have SOPs for, you know, taking x-rays and for entering the clinic and for leaving the clinic. Just literally every moment of every day had an SOP to go with it. And it was great because even though at times it felt a little bit heavy and a lot of administrative work it really made us stop and think about how we do everything and what's the best way to do everything. So yeah, it was good. I think that was the biggest chunk of time with the fear-free certification. I want to say it was about 4 months in total of writing SOPs, reviewing them, sitting down together, thinking how we can make them even better. Yeah, that was January to April.
Yeah. And I mean, I agree. It was such an interesting process. And the thing I think that sort of stood out for me the most during that process was actually the level of detail that we ended up, you know, embarking on or thinking about for each and every SOP. And it really helped us to think, you know, reading through it, you would actually imagine that pet's journey through every one of those procedures and look at it kind of from their perspective. And all of a sudden you really started to sort of see nuances and details. Well, you know, if they're in this place in the clinic, what are they actually seeing? What are they hearing? What are they smelling? And I think if we hadn't gone through those SOPs, we probably wouldn't have ever thought about it in quite that way. So that was the biggest takeaway for me from the SOPs, was kind of that attention to detail. You know, not just like, oh yeah, you know, we do it like this and but actually every little step, almost like every hand movement, every, you know, where you place, yeah, what hand, what finger, what person in what situation. So I think that was, yeah, a big takeaway for me, was the level of detail.
I think the level of detail helped us to get better every day too, because we would see things, like you said, these little nuances, but ooh, is there a better way of doing that? So the SOPs were like live in the process. It wasn't just like telling fear-free, this is how we do things and it's lovely. We were actually every day, you know, evaluating, can we actually make it better and write this into the SOP now? And it was just, yeah, this constant development.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a labor of love, I have to say. We, yeah, I think you cursed me every time I said, no, we have to look at that one again. We have to rewrite that one again.
Yeah.
But it had to be perfect, or as perfect as we could get it. Yeah. Ilse, what did you take out of writing the SOPs?
Similar to what Nora, was saying. So I was looking at it very much from, because Nora really looked at the clinical stuff, because she's, a registered veterinary nurse, so she knows all of that. But really, in business, we talk a lot about what is the client journey and how do we, navigate that. And it was really every single day looking at it from the patient's point of view. So not simply just where they park and when they move in, literally how to prepare the actual clients in order to make for the patient's benefit, not just for the client's benefit. And, as we were writing it, it would literally be, you'll go into the clinic, and because it's all in your, you're kind of in this universe of fear-free, really, really soaked in, you would literally walk up and go, ooh, I don't like how that thing is literally to that side, because maybe a dog will be scared of it, or, all these really, really small details. And I think what is great with the SOPs is that it really gives us a very clear guideline. It's very clear in terms of everyone on the team, although, we all are individually fear-free certified. It really gives us clarity. There's no, I'm not entirely sure what to do here. It's very, very clear. And as you were saying, so detailed. And, you think, while we were doing it, there were moments when Nora and I literally had to just almost decompress for a couple of hours before looking at it again. But it is so worth it. It is so worth it. Although at times it could be, kind of feeling like you're banging your head against a wall. They were very few and far between, but it is the amount of difference that it made in terms of going into that detail is amazing. It really is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think definitely well worth the effort, but I think I also have to say, not an easy process for a practice to go through. And I was actually extremely positively surprised at the level of detail that actually Fear-Free was looking for. It was really quite, a difficult process to go through. But I think having gone through that, you understand how the Fear-Free certified practices really set themselves apart and are quite different. It's not an easy process, but I think it has to be that way, because I think there's a whole kind of reason for becoming a Fear-Free certified practice, and that's part of it. So Ilse, why don't you chat us through a little bit the practical implementation? So we've done the SOPs, so we've written everything down on paper, and then how did you guys practically implement things, both from sort of an environmental perspective, I guess, how did we change things around in the clinic, but also kind of communicating everything that we were doing to the team? What did that look like?
So I think it was almost in tandem to what we were doing while we were writing the SOP. So as we started identifying certain aspects, we would bring it into the SOP, but we would also physically make the changes. And, the whole thing with Fear-Free is, as you mentioned earlier, it is the absolute experience of the patient. What do they see? What do they feel? What do they hear? What do they taste? Every single stimulus that they encounter. And really going from a cat and dog's kind of standpoint. So it would literally be, actually also being aware of what is happening in the clinic at the time. So one example would be, the client is with a dog by reception area, they're paying their bill. You can see the dog is very anxious to get out. What can we do to make that patient, they just had this really wonderful Fear-Free experience in the consultation, but now they're escalating because they just want to get home, but mom's paying the bill, and literally going, a scent box. Why not give them a little scent library that while mom is doing, paying, I can explore and sniff and not be concerned with just getting out of there, and then actually physically doing it, literally going, okay, we need boxes, and doing it as we're going. And then And then also taking on board, something that was really a standout for me was, from a dog's point of view, I know in cats we use it quite often, is grooming. So getting really lovely brushes for in the consultation, because, if dogs don't want to eat, or they're not particularly wanting to sniff, but you ask the owner, oh, do they like a nice, gentle groom? And the owner's sitting there and they're very gently grooming, and you can see the dog is just relaxing, and they're having this kind of pampering moment with the client, with their pet parent, so to speak, and actually just doing it. And then as soon as we had, and Nora and I think sometimes people would think we were a little bit manic at times. We would, have this inspiring moment, and it's immediately we need to film it as we're doing it. And we literally would film it with our phones and explain to the team, because then that video would go out to all our numerous teams' WhatsApp groups, because that's what we have to, keep clear communication, and explain why we're doing it, how do we use it, when would it be appropriate to use, and immediately send it out before even submitting or continuing with the certification process. So I think what was amazing with doing the practical alterations as we were going is, by the time the assessment happened, it was already part of the DNA. And what is so wonderful, because German Veterinary Clinic has been part of the fear-free journey for such a long time, it wasn't major changes. It wasn't, everyone's headspace and our whole ethos and ideology is so centered with that. All these little additions were, it just felt like the natural next step. So, just really clearly communicating it before, kind of submitting for assessment, I think was also very key, to make sure that it is, because the whole point is it needs to be sustainable. We're not doing it for an assessment. We're doing it because we truly believe that it is the height of excellence, and we truly believe that this is the absolute best for our patients, and needing to see, okay, what if we place the box there? Is that actually going to be easier for the nurses or the team to get it? Little things like that, like really taking into consideration what's going to work also best for the team, literally just placement of equipment, doing all of those changes. And then again, filming it, making sure everyone's on the same page, and sharing that information.
Yeah. And I really loved the way that you guys did that with the little videos and sending that stuff to the teams. I think that was a really inspired way of communicating things, because it's difficult to get everybody together and explain things to them. You can perhaps explain, some of the things that are relevant to each individual team in the moment, but just making sure that everybody knows like what our big picture approach actually is. And so speaking of teams, I think, one of the things about Fear-Free is that it really is a whole practice, every single team involvement, from the front of house team, through the nursing teams, obviously the vets, the housekeeping, the cleaning team. We also have a pet relocation team that also are very much on board with Fear-Free, but even right through to sort of the administrative guys. Nora, what did you kind of feel about getting all of the teams involved, and how that sort of worked, and what are sort of each individual team's roles when it comes to the process?
I mean, as Ilse was just talking, I was thinking about how amazing it was, the team's involvement with this process. Yes, myself and Ilse were the ones, implementing the changes, were the ones, brave enough to physically come and move something, but actually so much of it was team contributions. I mean, we have a new cat carrier at reception that was completely thought up by the receptionist. And I think that the biggest thing to say about the team's involvement with this was what an amazing mindset they all had during it. I think, when you work in a clinical environment, it's very easy to get a bit stuck in the way that you learned and, works and is right. And really, we have a team of 30 people here who all embrace these changes. And it's not just that they embraced them or accepted them, they were part of them. Everybody had things to add. Right at the very, very end, Joanna, our relocations manager, came to me and said, there's a hospital unit that you need to move because, I can see that if you were a cat in that, you could see this. And I don't think that's right. I'm like, okay. And she was absolutely right. It was, a really, really cool process. I think that we're lucky that Fear-Free wasn't new to people. So everybody had already learned about it. Everybody had done the individual certification. But just to see this process, like the, drive that everybody had, new things to add, and just kind of everything was clicking. The vets, for sure, the vets are all leaders within the team, and they really do set the standard for how Fear-Free consults go. And to see them all come on so far from when they started their Fear-Free journey was amazing. The nurses are kind of the glue that holds the whole clinic together. They're the implementers. They're the ones that make things happen. They really came with so many ideas. And our nursing team of 10, it's an amazing group. And I think the vast majority of the nursing team members are a little bit quiet, a little bit introvert, but to actually see them coming out of their shells and getting it and replying back to these videos like, that's really great, Nora, but actually, what if it's here? Like, it was amazing. I think, just the collective mindset of the team throughout this was really inspiring.
Yeah. And I think I just want to quickly add a little bit about from a vet's point of view, because I think it can be really easy. So I qualified in 1999, quite a long time ago now. And obviously, things have come on, quite a long way since then. And I think it can be difficult sometimes for vets to embrace new ways of doing things. I think there might be an attachment to perhaps how they were taught when they first left university, and perhaps worked in the first few jobs that really kind of shaped and molded them as vets, as young vets. And being able to sort of open your mind to new ways of doing things, I think is really a great quality to see in the vets that we have. And I think a lot of them, are at German Veterinary Clinic because of the way we do things. I think many of them actually, that draws them to us. So I think, we're definitely already a step ahead when it comes to that. But still, sometimes it's potentially a little bit inconvenient, or something might take longer, or, it doesn't maybe fit exactly with the schedule that they have in their minds, but actually adapting to the patient's schedule instead. So I think it's really commendable, the veterinary team, that, the way that they've embraced everything, and how they're now also thinking really creatively and thinking outside the box, because that's not always, I think, the easiest thing for us vets to do. But then also, I think the whole team at GVC are used to the fact that changes happen constantly, right? I think, we live in a very fast-paced environment here in the UAE, being an expat sort of country with lots of people coming and going, perhaps more so than people might be used to from their home countries. But I think as a practice, we've always been very kind of flexible, and I think people have just become used to the fact that that's the way things are done. So it was lovely to see everybody getting on board and really embracing it, and the sense of pride as well that I think that everybody had when we finally achieved our accolade was really lovely to see as well. All right, so Nora, why don't you walk us through the day? So we've now, we've done our SOPs, we've implemented everything, we've submitted everything back to Fear-Free, and now we have kind of a final assessment. Why don't you chat us through how that went? Because that was quite a big day for all of us.
Yeah, it was. It was exciting. So it was the 7th of June we did it. Now the assessor who was going to be doing this is based in the East Coast of US. So it had to be quite late in our day, early in theirs, to make it happen. So we knew it was starting at 3 p.m. And it was going to be about a 4-hour event of constant filming. We knew that the assessor was going to want to see every single corner of the clinic, and then that they would also want to do some patient observations and some interviews as well. So we had to have lots of devices charged and ready to go. And then we started from the outside of the clinic and we did the full tour. Now, myself and Ilse had done 10 fake tours before that, because we just wanted to make sure we were able to present ourselves in the best way, where we were able to actually show all of these amazing features that we have to the physical side of the clinic. So it felt very familiar when I started to do it. We started outside the clinic, and literally the walkthrough was explaining every inch of the clinic our ramp, the material that was used on the ramp for heat protection, to exactly the layout of our reception, where people would sit if they do have to sit, explaining they would normally go to the room, in every single consultation room, every corner, where we see patients go to and what enrichment we've put in those areas, how our actual instruments are kept, every single thing you can imagine. We walked through and we started downstairs, worked our way up, and we actually ran out of time. We have quite a big clinic, a big space, and that whole tour was supposed to take an hour and it ran over. So we had to continue it later on. And we had a few consults then arranged. Now, they wanted to have patient observations, but obviously for them to be as natural as possible. You know, we weren't going to stage a consult to show them what we are capable of. It was patients that actually needed to come in that day, that were pre-booked, and they wanted to see a mix of how different vets and different nurses worked. They also wanted to see the entire appointment from the moment the client arrives in the parking lot until they have paid and left, so that they could really just check that the SOPs we created in regards to check-ins and check-outs were being kept, you know, upheld within the clinic. So we had a doggy here for a blood draw. We also had a cat who was having a Silencia injection with the nurses. And then the one consult that also ran over in time was 6 Samoyed puppies for their first vaccination. And that was organically booked on that day. And it was such a gift to have that, because we were really able to demonstrate to Fear-Free, you know, the knowledge that we have as far as creating the first visit as a positive one for these little puppies. And that was really lovely. And to be honest, it was going on so long that I had messaged the assessor, who I was in constant contact with, and I was like, have you seen enough? Do you want to end now? She's like, no, I really want to watch these puppies. So that was a really lovely appointment. And then throughout the evening, in between consultations, we had a number of team interviews too. So the assessor interviewed a couple vets, nurse, reception, and kind of got a feel for, you know, our team culture and embracing Fear-Free. So it finished, I think, around 7:20, 7:30 p.m. It was a bit of a marathon, but it was amazing. It just really felt like this. You know, I said to Ilse the morning of it, and I think I said it to you too, before the assessment, that we had actually already won. At that point, it almost was irrelevant if we got the certification. It already felt so good, everything we had achieved. We had achieved, you know, all of our goals as far as making this clinic even better, even more fear-free, creating a consistency, creating an amazing patient and client experience. We had achieved all of that already, and that felt so good. And at the end of the assessment, it was just, yeah, the cherry on top that it had gone as well as it did.
Yeah, no, I agree. It was a great day. So I was there for part of it, not for all of it. And again, I was so pleasantly surprised at, you know, the level of detail that Fear-Free wanted to see during the assessment. It was really lovely that, you know, to feel that they actually wanted to see all these things that we had thought so hard about and spent so much time implementing, and, you know, really kind of toiled over and, you know, created the best possible experience from what we thought. And it was lovely that they wanted to see that. And I have to say, I'm sure you will both agree, you know, Fear-Free were just wonderful to work with from start to finish. I think, you know, they really encompass their own values in terms of what they want to achieve as a Fear-Free organization. You know, that kind of shone through in all the communication that we had, and in the people that we touched base with, you know, from the assessor right through to the founder, who, you know, emailed me after we achieved the accolade to congratulate us personally, which, you know, was such a lovely touch. So yeah, I don't know, do you guys agree that the experience with Fear-Free was amazing? Nora, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it was humbling, I would say, first, really to see the level that they're working at. I mean, we've been doing Fear-Free and cat friendly for a long time, and we do it really well. And then to see these actual, you know, leaders in that world and what they were expecting, it was it was amazing. You really had to dig deep and keep working to make ourselves even better. So it was humbling, but it was amazing. They were so supportive. The actual assessor who did, all of our SOP revisions and then actually did the tour on the evening, she was such a great example of a fear-free practitioner. She clearly only wants the absolute best, and it was really great to work with them.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. All right, so let's move on to Ilse. Why don't you chat us through a little bit about, so now we've done the whole process and we've been a certified practice for a little while now. What do you think the benefits have been of the process? Like when you walk into the clinic now, what do you feel the wins have been on the back of going through this whole process and becoming certified?
I think it is by getting the certification, because, even on the day of the assessment, it wasn't, yes, some of us were a little bit, because, I was in front of the camera quite a lot, helping in consults and just doing what we do all the time. And that was amazing. That was really, it's just literally what we do in those, now specifically the consultation side of things. But it really has attuned, I get the impression that it's really attuned absolutely everyone in the clinic, just that extra couple, 10-20% more in terms of seeing and being a little bit more aware and attuned to patients coming in, patients going out, really thinking out of the box. I mean, myself and one of the vets, we did a sedation in the car because the FA, the fear, anxiety, and stress level dog was very comfortable, very chilled. It's like, why disrupt this if happy in the car? And since then, I think we actually did a similar one a couple of days ago. Again, dog was comfy in the car. Why, disrupt? And I mean, even thinking of things of like doing vaccinations in the car, if that's where the dog is the most comfortable, or on the move, or, sniffing a little spot outside. It's really just really brought out the creativity in everyone in the clinic, and those really little things about where before it might have been just that in the moment you're busy and you're rushing from one room to the other room, where yes, you still, but it's just that mindfulness now. I think everyone is much more mindful about seeing, oh, there's a patient there. I'm not going to go my fastest route that I'm used to. I'm now actually going to go, behind the desk or something like that, which, you kind of cognitively, you're aware that that's what you should be doing, but it is definitely much more embodied. I think I kind of feel like it's just our awareness shift has just really, really escalated. And just walking into the clinic, just literally walking in and wow, seeing dogs not flipping and seeing how wonderful it is that, there's never, even the clients, the way that we set it up and that it's been set up, I haven't seen a cat carrier even going close to the floor. It's just such, and it's those little things that we all know make the biggest difference. And it's just really so lovely to see, or dogs accidentally interacting. It's really, I also just think the actual layout of how things have been done, it makes it so much easier for the client who might not even be aware of the fear-free. It's just, they don't even have to think about it. They just kind of do their normal thing. But the way we set it up is we managed to keep their dog or cat's fear, anxiety, and stress levels very, very low. So yeah, it's really good to see.
And I think I love that it's almost like, it's done to such a level of skill and detail that the clients don't even realize what it is that is different. It's just the experience that they now have. And, for us, it's clear, it's the this, it's the that, these are all the little things that we've done to create that experience, but the client just moves through the experience and, it's almost seamless and invisible, all the things that we've put into place. I think for me, one of the other things is, and I think I said it a couple of days after we got the certification, is witnessing the team and especially the vets, I think, being almost liberated and given permission to think outside the box. And that example that you just said, Ilse, that the dog that was sedated in the car. So I know that was a patient that one of the vets was really worried about, because the previous experience, he had been extremely anxious and worried, and it was quite difficult to treat him. And together, she and I, we came up with a great pre-visit pharmaceutical plan, and he was so comfortable in the car. And I think you both felt that, bringing him now out of the car into the clinic, where he perhaps still had some previous associations. No matter how amazing the environment is now, there probably still was some learning left over from last time. And to just be able to take the decision to sedate him in the car, make sure that was a safe situation for everybody, use some local anesthetic spray, and then just give him his sedation in the car. I think that was so genius. And I just felt so happy that people just felt empowered to make that decision, to be able to do that. And I think that's what it's all about for me. Nora, how about you? What are your big wins since the day of?
I mean, I completely agree with the vet's creativity and thinking outside the box. And the word empowered is really it, that they now can apply fear-free care in a whole new way. And that's been amazing to witness. For me, one of the most fun elements has been the physical layout of the clinic. GVC has kind of always been a bit of a Tetris game with figuring out the best space. And there's been a lot of changes over the years, and it's always kind of like, what would be better? What would be better? What would be better? And I feel like right now it's like the best it can be as far as layout. We've got the 2 cat-only rooms that are completely sacred to cats, and the same for dogs. We have 2 and 2, so we never have clients waiting. We never have, bottlenecks of not being able to put people in rooms. That is perfect to me, that we have kind of figured out. We won the game of Tetris. And I think that, seeing space work better, we had another moment during this process where we realized where our dental machine wasn't, potentially the best place. The dental machine is very noisy. In the past, we didn't use it too much. And now we have an amazing dentist here, Dr. Adrian, who does so many dentals. The machine's always in use. We're like, hang on, it needs to be further away from patients. And finding the perfect room where I am now, that's a quiet, separate space to where any patients are going to be. It's like just those sort of physical elevations have been really nice. Actually seeing the way things work on a logistics level every day. And I think as well, just throughout the SOPs and the process, the level of consistency this has brought. We always have some people within the team that are, really, really, really focused on fear-free and is their be-all and end-all, and then other people who are maybe new to it and are still trying to figure it out. Whereas throughout the SOPs and the trainings that went with it, there's just a level of consistency where we know any patient who comes any day, whoever they see, they're going to get a fear-free experience.
Yeah, no, I love that. I totally agree. Alrighty, well, I think that has been an amazing little trip through our fear-free certification process. I think it's it's been such a great process for everybody. Obviously, for those of us who were very closely involved, but I think for everybody kind of who witnessed everything that went on. And then I do want to say that if anybody's curious about what our practice actually looks like, Ilse and Nora are going to do a Facebook Live. Have you guys got a date for that?
Yeah, next Tuesday.
So that will be the 2nd of July, where they're actually going to do a walk through the clinic at almost as we did on the assessment day, and just show all the kind of little corners of the clinic. So that should be up on our German Veterinary Clinic Facebook page after the 2nd of July. It's going to happen on the evening of the 2nd July UAE time. So if anybody wants to actually physically see what we've been talking about, that's a really good spot to head to. And then for anybody who is in Abu Dhabi, we're also going to have for anybody who's actually in Abu Dhabi, we're also going to have a bit of a celebration, a bit of an open day, probably in October of this year, maybe slightly later. I'm currently studying for my exams, so I'm a little bit occupied at the moment. But as soon as that is over, we'll be having an open day to celebrate our fear-free win. So if anybody wants to come to that and physically see it, you guys are going to be more than welcome. And I think we're going to do a couple more of these podcast episodes to just focus perhaps a little bit on more of the detail. If there are any vets or vet nurses that are listening who'd like to take away some tips for their own practices, I guess Nora will do probably a little bit of a cat episode, and maybe Ilse and I will do a bit of a dog episode, just to give some more detail of what are actually the things that we implement and how do we go about doing, doing the things that we do to make it a fear-free experience. So any final words from you guys before we sign off? Nora, final thoughts from you?
When you were just saying about the open day, I actually just wanted to say, if we do have listeners that are in Abu Dhabi, just come anytime. There's nothing that we love more than to give a tour of the clinic. I think it's really important as a pet owner to be able to see, your veterinary clinic and how things are. So if that's something you ever want to do, please do. And I really think that fear-free is the way of the future. I don't think it will be a special new thing in the future. At least I hope not. I hope that this is just the way that animals are treated in the future, and it's very exciting to be at the start of that, but I truly do believe that fear-free will be the only way in years to come.
Yeah, totally agree. Ilse, final thoughts from you?
Yeah, I think I need to agree with Nora there. It is definitely, the tides is, it's changing. We know that, and it's really lovely to be part of that. And I also, anyone listening, if you're unfamiliar with Fear-Free, please also have a look at Fear-Free Happy Homes. That's a resource we share a lot with it's more clients or pet owner orientated. So please go have a look at that. And yeah, I'm just so over the moon that the world is changing to make the welfare of all patients emotionally and obviously physically better.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think that will probably be the final word from me, is that I've always said that as a veterinary profession, we've been very good at taking care of the physical health of our pets. We've always done that very, very well. But I think we've not been great at taking care of their mental and emotional health. And, whether that's in a veterinary clinic setting or whether that's, at home, and the behavior work that I'm doing, yeah, it's definitely something that needs more consideration, and being able to be part of this and to offer this in the veterinary clinic and in the veterinary setting is just such a privilege. So, and I agree, this needs to be the way we do things. Like there can't be any other way. This has to be the way things are done. All right. Thank you both for joining me. And thank you guys for listening. And we're going to see you next week for episode 38. Bye for now.